Okay, here we go. We are ready for our final webinar in this series. We're about to start the Ascend. So, what does the Ascend mean when we're talking about the rise of the Phoenix? So, we've taken a bit of a journey. We've had an understanding of what the rise of the Phoenix concept is about. We've gone into a bit of a deep dive and done the purge, gone through and understood some of the subconscious, unconscious programming, some of the lower vibrational energies that may be limiting our ascend. And so now what we want to do is look at what an ascend looks like. So one thing that is really key for me is the understanding that it's all about energy, all about vibration and raising our vibration. And I know that you would have heard that, and it's quite a common terminology, but what do we really mean by that? How do we actually go about that? What is the process? Obviously, we do understand emotion, energy, emotion. We understand that emotions are part of raising our vibration. Being positive is part of raising our vibration, high vibe, that sort of thing. However, I find it extremely helpful to actually look at some of the more technical, scientific, and practical understanding of what does this actually mean? How do we go about doing that? Understanding a little bit more about energy, understanding a little bit more about what shifts energy. So I think this is a really key aspect to this journey. So I have once again prepared a little presentation, which I'll share with you now. And we can have a little look at what this all actually means. So just checking once again, hopefully you can see that this time. And I will take a moment here and there and hopefully break it down a little bit more, pause it. I don't want to rush it too much. There is quite a lot of content and it is quite content heavy. And some of these concepts and everything else might be very familiar to you, and some may be completely foreign. So don't worry about that too much. Hopefully, you can go back, review things. And as mentioned before, I really encourage some journaling around this. Another way to really digest any information is to share information. So by actually sharing the concepts, sharing what you've learned, telling somebody else about it, it's a really powerful way to learn and to really integrate any information. So where do we want to go? Where do we actually want to go when we say ascending? We're ascending. You would have heard terminology like ascended masters. So what does that mean? They ascended, they have ascended a particular way of being. And what we really want to understand is what they have transcended is a vibrational state of being. They have raised their vibration, they have ascended their consciousness and their point of perception, their point of reference. So this really is what it comes down to. We've spoken before about resonance. What are you resonating with? And obviously those higher frequency resonance is what we're talking about. Talking about even going to a resonance where we are beyond the waveform that brings anything into physical reality. So if everything is energy and energy is a consciousness, if we then, the wave of energy slows down in order for it to become manifest and a manifestation in a manifest form. So when we understand those layers of frequency, that is how we can begin to understand multidimensional realities and multidimensional timelines. So really stay with an open mind as we go on this journey today and have a little bit of an understanding of these various realities. So how do we actually ascend through various dimensions and timelines? And what's the difference between a dimension and a timeline? So what is it, how we actually shift timelines? How do we transcend timelines? So let's take a little bit of a look. So if we understand that everything is energy, and we're looking at energy and the quantum field. So if we have a look at that image, the top image here, it's a vibration. And as you can see in this image here, there are layers of vibration, layers of energy. So if we look at the background here, that's energy as well in a different form. And then we have in the forefront a little bit more these lines, these waves, these thicker lines and thinner lines. And then there is these lines that are connected and creating a grid. And then there are these dots, okay, which is an intensified aspect of energy. So this is one way to really start to perceive reality from an energetic perspective. So we can look at this as a macro or a micro perspective. So if we imagine this as a global scale, as an infinite universal scale, so if you think about like the whole framework of the universe in the background, and then you think about all these different waveforms that are creating different energy functions and different experience. So the little dots are intensified, concentrated energy. And then when we see the lines that are creating a grid, that can be energy that is connected. So it's like energy, it's creating a framework. And then we have the wave coming through it. So that could be considered like a timeline or an experience that is continuation of energy. So it really is quite an interesting concept to look at it from this image and just sort of get our head around how energy can be layered. If we then to look at this as a human, so imagine we're looking at a human here. So we may look at, like, say, the background could be like the energetic, the pranic field. And then we could look at the grids that are built there. That could be the beginning of a form. Like this might be an arm, for example, and it's creating a grid in order for it to be manifest into an arm. And then the flow of energy could be the chi or the prana running through, or could even be like some of the blood energy coming through. So, or it could be even ancestral and everything. So we could really consider that layers and layers of energy, just like the concept of that by looking at that image. I quite like to sort of use the imagination to kind of explain, but then see and really see what the energy could be. So one way that we on a day-to-day level experience energy is through thoughts and emotions. And here, this is a really nice little idea, and again, visual, to see where different energies are affecting us and radiating us. Okay, so like, negative emotions are going to have a different energy field as opposed to positive emotions or uplifting emotions. They're going to create a field around us that we are then radiating out, that people respond to, and that also then attracts a similar frequency. We attract that through people and also experiences. So when we see something happening in our world, when we see certain relationships, when we meet certain people, when we look around at the friends and the people and the colleagues around us, it's really helpful for us to see as that is a reflection of what we're radiating out into the world. What is our frequency? So we're moving through this quite quickly, and I'm not going to go really in depth into everything because really it is very quite a lot to take in. So I really want to give you an overview. Some of you may be like quite expansive in your languaging around this. So you may have a lot of languaging and understanding, and some may not. And so it can get a bit overwhelming, but it is quite good to kind of go back over that. So when we talk about ascending and when we talk about creating our own reality, when we're talking about tuning into infinite possibilities, what does that actually mean? And even that in itself it can be an ongoing exploration, and it certainly is for me. When I first got into Dr. Joe's work in particular, he talks a lot into tuning into infinite possibilities. And when I first started experiencing that in the meditations, I really became aware of my limitation of understanding, that I actually had a limitation as to what infinite meant to me. And as I've continued to expand more and more and more, infinite really has become a very, very infinite reality. It's quite a profound thing. So when we consider infinite possibilities, we want to look at what these possibilities are and how do we actually understand and connect to these possibilities. So let's break it down a little bit from our reality and our life experience. So what are you in resonance with? And we've talked about vibration, frequency, resonance. It's all that same sort of concept. There can be so many layers to this, but let's talk about what we just saw in that last image, that top image here. Okay, so see that top image there. That is frequency, that is resonance, that is a wave, that is vibration. So whatever the frequency of that we're looking at there in that image is what you are in resonance with. So anything that is in a frequency match, a resonance match, that is what you are a vibrational match to. So we have subatomic particles, then we have our cellular level, and then we have this frequency radiating from all of that. So subatomic particles are like the smallest particles vibrating, and that's the essence. So we are in resonance to that frequency. So when we start to shift our energy, when we're really shifting at a deep cellular level, and this is really powerful that you understand this, because when we do things like affirmations and we say something, I am wealthy, and those words are completely out of resonance with our deep, true belief system and what our subatomic particles are actually resonating with. On that deep frequency cellular level, I don't believe I'm wealthy. So I don't believe I'm capable of being wealthy. I don't believe I'm wealthy. There's a deep, deep, deep knowing in ourselves because of programming. And so if I just say the affirmations, I'm constantly in discord with the resonance. So the shift has to come from that deep subatomic level. I have to have an understanding of shifting my deep programming, my deep belief system. So once again, when we look around at our reality, that's what you're in resonance with. And that sounds harsh sometimes because there's things in our reality that we feel like we haven't chosen, and we don't always choose it consciously, but somehow with our frequency, we have chosen it. And it's not a choice, it's just that we're in resonance with it. So how do we shift our resonance so that we can attract and receive what it is we truly want to experience? So when we say tuning into the present moment, this is a very powerful thing as well. And I know that I'm going quickly, and maybe pause and write some notes if you need to, if you're listening to the recording, but take it and have an awareness of the present moment is where we're at. So all possibilities in the quantum exist in the present moment. Okay, in this present moment, your intention, your resonance, your direction, where your focus goes, your energy flows. So that focus at this moment is where the energy is going. That is where we are directing our energy. That is where we're directing our focus. So whatever vibration I am receiving at the moment is where I'm at. And I can only create any shift in my reality within the present moment. So right here, right now, what is my vibrational set point, because that is what I will be attracting, and that is what I'll be in resonance with. So tuning into the present moment, because all possibilities in the quantum exist in the present moment. So later on, as we go through this a little bit more, this will also come into understanding. So just really sort of put a pinpoint, a mark in that, and understanding that all possibilities in the quantum exist in the present moment, meaning that all possibilities exist right now in this moment. Okay, what are we resonating with? So we have, and we are, an electromagnetic field. So if we were to measure the field, your field, the thoughts that you are thinking create an electrical current. There is an electrical current. And the feelings related create a magnetic field, and together that's an electromagnetic field. So we can tune into our feelings, which will shift our thoughts. We can shift our feelings with our thoughts, and we can shift our thoughts with our feelings. So we really want to be in a cohesive, this is that mind, heart, coherence, brain, heart coherence, because then we become more aware of our electromagnetic field. When our brain and our heart are in coherence, so they are coherent, we are resonating a coherent frequency into the field. Our electromagnetic field is in coherence. If we are out of balance, so our heart is feeling something and the mind is in an opposition, our mind is not listening to the heart or not in coherence with the heart, are we heart-led or mind-led? Okay, so we want to come into that coherence because we create an imbalance. We all know that the heart may feel something, yet we make a choice based on what the mind is saying. And so then the mind is maybe making a choice. We might be using practical, analytical thinking to make choices, but the heart is actually in opposition to those thoughts or those decisions, and we have an incoherent field. Okay, and so then we get mixed experiences, and we also are not in resonance with what we say we desire. The heart might desire one thing, the mind is directing another thing, our field is incoherent, so we cannot be a direct resonance or a direct match with what it is we say we want. So really important to let that land for a moment, and I really encourage journaling. First of all, journaling around your thoughts and emotions and how you feel about the concept of everything being energy. Then journaling around what are you in resonance with? What is it, the electromagnetic field? Are you in a coherent resonance at this point? And then we start to understand quantum timelines. So I really love this image and some of the other images around the concept of quantum timelines, because what's really amazing also is that there is more and more technology around quantum. Quantum physics has been one of the most powerful things in our reality, in our time, and in this incarnation over the last however many years, because quantum physics has brought us back to an understanding of consciousness, an understanding of the infinite possibilities, an understanding of that we are beyond time and space. And that's such a powerful thing. And I think that is the true ascension. This is where we start to understand ascension. This is when we start to understand the reality that we are shifting. We have been living in a 3D reality for a very long time. And in a 3D reality, we are bound by time and space. We are bound by a linear timeline. We have this concept of a linear timeline, this concept of we start here, we finish here, it takes this long to get somewhere. And the reality is this is not the reality. We are shifting all the time. We can shift timelines, we can shorten time, we can bring down the refractory period of something manifesting, energy manifesting. We can extend time as we understand it. We can also jump quantum timelines. And this is the other thing, is like, this is why it's so important to have an understanding of the energetics of this and the perception and everything we've talked about, because when we think about jumping timelines, we often start to think about time, like time travel. So then we may think about, I'm going to time travel back to a certain time or forward to a certain time. And we're leaving this time and traveling, like the earth is spinning and we're traveling to get somewhere, and we've created, or we've moved forward or back. Or we may feel like, especially things like goal setting and things like that, a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan. And we have this idea that this will take this amount of time because it has to, because time, we're bound by time. And in reality, we're not at all. And we've all experienced timeline shifts. We've all experienced time and experiences when we thought we didn't have any time. One classic example I was living in a location. It took the fastest possible time ever, if there was no traffic, 15 minutes for me to get to my work in a car, if there was no traffic. And I was running late for a class, and I was so late, I had 5 minutes to get there. And I knew I was going to be late. I thought, oh, well, I'll just be late. And I gave in, I relaxed, I didn't stress. There wasn't no traffic. There was traffic, not like standstill traffic, but there was, like, sometimes if I've driven at 5 a.m, there's no traffic, but there was like normal traffic. So I just allowed time. I had the same watch and the same time. So it's not like, oh, well, your watch must have been off. I got to the class right on time. So it took me 5 minutes. Whereas in reality, with no traffic, it should take me 15 minutes. So that time stood still, or that time was quantum shifted. I quantum shifted this time. And it's happened before. I can extend time, I can shorten time, I can pause time, because time is a concept. Who actually decided time? Yes, we're talking about the revolutions of the earth and the way the sun goes around and all that sort of stuff. But again, we have so much perception of time because we have a conditioned response to how long something takes, if that makes sense. Now, when we also talk about multi-dimensional, so here we're talking about quantum timelines. So if we look at this image and we look at, like, say, this first big circle in the middle, oval, that's a reality. It's a timeline. Okay, so imagine that as a timeline. And that's an experience. However, see, there is layers of experiences. There are like waves of experiences, and they can be considered to be versions of the same experience. It's like an echo, or it's like a ongoing, it's a continuation of the experience. So when we start to think about a multi-dimensional reality, this is what a multidimensional reality could look like, that concept of the idea that, say, your focus, so say this red oval aspect is your current focus, where your predominant focus is. However, there is an aspect of your consciousness having all of these other experiences as well. And you may have experienced that through dream state, or in meditation, or in trance, or even when you've gone on psychedelics or anything like that, breath work, where you get a bleed through of these other timelines, or you get a glimpse of these other timelines, where you have an experience of you as someone else, or you're experiencing other people in your life, in your world, that you no, but then when you come back into this reality, you realize you don't know them, but there was just this moment when you thought you knew them. So that's like a bleed through of an existence or a timeline that is existing or happening in other dimensions. So Matías de Stefano, if you haven't heard of him, I definitely look it up. He's the best. It's such a powerful way that he explains dimensions, because he is a multidimensional being. He's really grounded, down to earth guy. And he remembers all of his past lives, or most of his past lives, including life on other planets, including life in other timelines of ancient times. He remembers a lot of these dimensions, and he speaks about these different dimensions and what that means. So when he talks about one dimensional, it's just pure light awareness. Okay, so it's the idea of polarity. So this is like kind of almost a concept of how we come into this existence. So there is just a beingness, and then there's an awareness of beingness. 2D reality is like, that's when we get into space and time. So there is this awareness of space and time. Okay, so we realize that there is a separation, because space and time creates separation. There is separation between this moment and that moment, between that person and that person, that object and that option. There is space and time in there. Three-dimensional experience is there is an awareness of time, and we're able to sort of reflect that time, but it's fixed. So we're able to manipulate in the sense that we can do something with the time. And there is also a reality of dimensions, of shapes and form. Okay, so when we get into that expanded 3D, so we start to become aware of diversity and complexity, space and time. So it's like we're understanding the physical form, and we're also understanding the non-physical. So in this 3D form, we are aware of a reality outside of this 3D form, and we're also aware of the space, right? So there is the space between objects, there is space and time, and there is an awareness, there is a consciousness. So we're in an expanded 3D, we become more aware of the consciousness. And then in 4D, there is this able to reflect and manipulate. So 4D often is also related to the thought form stage, because and what we talked about before is in thought form, we create like a grid, we create a concept. So in thought form, we create a grid, and that grid, like that image we looked at before with the dots and the lines, that grid, that thought form grid can now vibrate and resonate and bring into reality and bring into the 3D form. So we can bring that vibration into a 3D reality form. When we go to 5D, we're experiencing the integration of all. Okay, we're creating, we're aware of 3D and we're aware of 4D. We're aware of the thought form. We can actually manipulate the thought form. So if you imagine in the 5D, we're not bound by the 3D, but we can, from the 5D, affect the 3D, because we can also, from 3D, we can't affect. Okay, we're just moving around with the parts that we've got. In 4D, we have thought form. And so through thought, and we're actually functioning in 4D quite a lot when we're doing things like manifestation and intention setting and vision boarding and all that sort of stuff. We start to build the grid. And then in 5D, we understand that, and we don't need that time. Okay, we don't need the time to do the visioning and the thought form. We actually can experience, and we're aware of that whole concept, and we can almost like a ball, like choose what experience we want to experience. And as we go beyond 6D and all of that, like when we start to go to 6D, we're creating the universes and realities, enlightenment, Akashic records, the void beyond. And what I love really that he really shares, like from 60 onwards, we actually start to lose the humaning. So he was saying too, like with the 9D So then we get right back to the beginning again, but the ninth dimension and things is just the void beyond all dimensions. So it's not like ascending. Our desire is to ascend to the ultimate infinite dimensions because we can. However, in those higher frequencies, all experience is gone. All experiencing is gone. We just are. You're just consciousness. You merge into consciousness. There is no desire, there is no identification, there is no experiencing, which in itself is absolutely fine. And we get glimpses of that in certain experiences, meditations, moments of enlightenment. We get those experiences. However, there is a reason that we choose to be in these lower dimensions, because we do get to actually experience at this level. And so the consciousness is experiencing in the most unique level through you, through me, through all of us. So there is this unique experiencing. Told you it's going to get heavy. Look into a lot. I would 100% look into Matthias's work. I think he's definitely a gift to us, and we're so lucky to have him and accessible. All right, as I said, I'm moving through, so pause, reflect, go back over. This Ascend webinar definitely is the most mind-blowing one, and I just really wanted to share with you this level of understanding so that we really get a concept of all of this. Okay, so now I would really encourage you to look up the work of Donald Hoffman. So Donald Hoffman is a scientist, and he studies consciousness. And amazing story. He's got a book which is really hard to read. Even the audiobook is hard to get your head around. It's called The Case Against Reality, but it is a really fantastic book. But also even just a lot of his podcast interviews, he's really amazing, and he actually does a lot of interviews and sits on panels with Vedanta and other sort of mindfulness practices. So it's really powerful to have a scientist share the consciousness mindset. And in yoga, we talk about the Maya. So we talk about the illusion. So the Maya is really the illusion. The experience we're having is an illusion. And so a lot of Donald Hoffman's work, really from a scientific perspective, shares the concept of the Maya. I know that most of you have probably seen The Matrix. If you haven't, you absolutely have to. It's a spiritual must-have, must-do. It really does give you a lot of enlightenment. It was definitely one big piece on my path when I came out of that movie all those years ago. I knew I had seen a documentary, and that really had an really instrumental effect on my path and my journey. Now, Donald Hoffman's conversation talks about that we are conscious agents, and we perceive through a reality interface. Now, if any of you play computer games, have ever played computer games, I don't play computer games. However, I've seen it. We've all seen it. I'm sure we've seen it. And what he talks about in the reality interface, and this is what quantum physics talks about. Quantum physics talks about the concept that if we're not observing it, it's not happening. And that's just mind-blowing, because you go, okay, well, I know right now there's a wall behind me, but if I'm not looking at it, is the wall there? And you might go, yeah, I can see it. However, you're looking at it, so you're creating it. However, I look outside and everything is there. So it's a really hard one to get our head around about how does that work. One thing Donald Hoffman talks about, and I think this is a good way to understand things, is that what we're seeing, and this is coming back to that 3D understanding, is not all there is. It's a rendered version of what is in reality there. So this brings us back to that earlier image of energy and the waves and the grid and all that sort of thing, because the tree, the table, all the things have an energetic blueprint. They have an energetic construct. And that energetic construct, the waveform energetic construct, is condensed down to be a table or a tree. And we collectively at this 3D level have come to an agreement of what it is that I'm seeing so that I can take in this information easier. And one thing Donald Hoffman uses as an analogy is on the computer screen, you have a little icon that explains or that says email, right? So you know to click on that icon will open up the program that is my emails. So first of all, the little icon will open up a whole thingy of all the emails. Okay, that all the emails are not there all the time. They're just a little icon. Then I open it up. Then I can open up each email. There's different categories. However, what I also don't see and don't need to see and would be too much information is all the programming, all the ones and zeros that make up the program of emails in general, how that information gets shared, how the program knows this information, how the program receives every letter, every bit of information and renders it so that it stays true to what the intention was when it was first sent out, who it's from, where it's from, how it's arrived. All of the information about one email would be so much information if I had to understand it that way or see it that way. So in order for me to be able to easily understand and interact with it, it's all condensed down to this little icon, and that icon is a representation of everything that is email. Does that make sense? I know it's a bit full on. And the same thing is with a tree. A tree is so much. The cells, the every single thing of the tree, the vibration of the tree, the way the nutrients work through the tree, the interaction the tree has with the sun, with the environment, everything else. The whole breakdown, the energetic construct of a tree, if I had to perceive and understand that, like say Neo perceives and understands, it would be overwhelming. So my consciousness, my conscious agent, my reality interface has consolidated it down to a form which I perceive as a tree. So that is how the concept of living in a simulation has come about, because scientists have understood that this isn't what I'm looking at. A tree is not just a tree, it's a whole lot of information. And I suppose the technological era has really given us a framework of understanding. So we are a manifestation, a consequence of our programmed experiences. If we look at this image here of Neo, that is a programmed experience. It is a program experience of understanding what is a hand, what is glasses, what is this person's personality, what is the form, what is the gender. All these sort of things are part of the program. That all that information is there when we look at a human being. All that information, we know how much information the cells are sharing in order for this being to be created. And then we have our own individual perception within the game, within the construct, so the conscious agent that I am is got a unique individual perception of this reality that I'm in, this reality construct. I hope you're sticking with me, and it is a bit much, and I know that I'm throwing it all at you, and we're going very, very quick, and we could go very deep on each one, and we will. There is more to come. However, I really just wanted to give you an understanding of where this could go. Take a deep breath. Okay, and for me too, there's a lot here. I would love to share more with you as we go deeper. And I do have a series coming up where we can really, really dive deep into all of these different concepts and get a better understanding on how to human and how to get the most out of it. So one of those concepts is cracking the code, understanding different ways that we can affect this resonance, that we can affect this energy field. If you're a yogi and if you have studied yogic practices, there is a reason the yogis have always known about the energetic reality. I mentioned before, the yogis and the yogic philosophy talks about the Maya, about the fact that we're living in an illusion. And yoga understands the physical form as vibration, understands that we are a vibrational being and we're radiating light and frequency. So yoga, for one, uses things like mantra and yantra, amongst other things, obviously postures, breath work, all sorts of things. But when you think about mantra, mantra is a vibration, a resonance, a sound like Om. Is a vibration, there's a resonance to it. And different mantras, different sounds have a different resonance that can resonate with the form. And even just through sound, that's a whole study of its own, the whole study of yoga and sound. And not just yoga, but there's lots of really profound sound healing with tuning forks and sound baths and all sorts. That really is, that in itself can be a journey to enlightenment. And yantra in yoga is the forms, is the shape. Okay, so even that shape on that image there is a yantra. And yoga has this deep, 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 extensive study and body of work on all the different yantras related to the different chakras, relating to different deities, relating to different dimensions. So by tuning in or meditating on one of these yantras, you are you're aligning with the resonance or frequency of that form. And that form is just a geometric form, which is part of the geometry of the framework. So remember that very first image we showed? Okay, the very first image where the energy has a shape and it's got dots and lines. That's part of the geometry that creates a vibration, that creates a form. So we can use yantra to reverse engineer our frequency. So there are other ways that we can read our frequency: numerology, astrology, key master keys, human design. So these are all things. There's so many ways that we can start to read the blueprint of your soul and blueprint of just energetic frequency. There is a resonance. Astrology can give you coordinates and frequency, resonance. Human design gives you a construct of like how your soul construct might be. Same with the master keys that I work with. That really does give you a framework and understanding about how your soul structure is. And by understanding that, you can tap into the frequency that is aligned with your soul mission. And then from there, those infinite potentials and possibilities we've talked about before. If you first are able to align with your soul and your soul construct and your soul framework, from there you can attune to the infinite possibilities that that soul has access to, if that makes sense. Again, like when we're looking at the simulation theory, if you're playing a character in a game, your character that you are playing in your game, the one that you chose to play the game with, has limitations. That character has certain abilities, certain weapons, certain ways it is you play the game with that character. If you played another character, would have different weapons, different abilities. You can, during the game, increase the abilities of the game of the character. However, if you've played a game before and you go through the game and you know that this character has to get certain treasures to optimize this character, but this character may not be able to get the treasures that this character can, and it doesn't have the ability to have the tools that this character or the abilities that this character has. So once you line up with your human design, your key codes, whatever it is, your numerology, that's like reading, okay, what character am I playing? What are my limitations? What are my abilities? And now from there, I can tap into infinite potential through this character. I can still tap into infinite possibilities, but my way of getting to those infinite possibilities has to be through this character. Okay, so you need to crack the code of your character in order to play the game here in this level, because we are in a framework of limitation within this reality. However, if we crack the code, we can reprogram or affect the program from that higher dimension. Sound like a nutter, don't I? Okay, we're nearly there. And this is really important. Okay, so you've got your understanding. You are infinite beings. You've got an understanding of the different dimensions. You've got an understanding of your framework, your soul conditioning framework, your soul blueprint. You've got an understanding of your character and maybe some of your programming. So now, as we move through this reality, it comes down to the moment by moment experience. We're creating a shift in our timeline. We spoke earlier about emotions, energy in motion. So energy in motion, energy is always in movement. There is a constant wave, there is a constant experiencing, and there is a resonance of our frequency, of our energy. We will have emotions in this reality. We will be experiencing emotions. When we have an awareness of the beyond, and we live from that more 5D understanding, our emotions they will continue to be in motion. So what happens a lot of the time when we're living more 3D reality is the energy gets stuck. We get stuck because of our thoughts. Remember the thoughts and the heart and the emotions and the thoughts and the coherence. So we may have an emotion. We build a story in that emotion. There's a story in the thought pattern and the identity and the ego and the personality construct. And we hold on to the story, and the story either holds us in the emotion, or the story will deepen the emotion and descend the emotion even more. So we become, like, say, for example, we get a little bit offended by somebody, and we feel a sense of our pride being hurt. And that emotion arises, and it could be fleeting. It could be a moment. And we have an opportunity at that moment to spiral up or spiral down. If we get into the head, we may start to get a feeling of injustice and frustration, and we're irritated, and we're like, what? You just hurt my pride. And so we start to get a little bit angry. We're actually a bit angry with the person. So we start to get a bit angry. And then that anger starts to drive us into fear. We're like, oh, well, maybe they didn't like us. Maybe it isn't just my pride. Maybe actually they're right. Maybe they actually mean that. So we're getting a bit fearful. And then we get into these lower things like grief and guilt and shame. And you can see how it's easy to spiral downwards into some of those lower vibrational frequency. When we look at energy as a frequency, or every emotion as a waveform, okay, we get to those lower frequencies. It says here, these are the hertz, okay? So you imagine that you're at guilt or shame, you're at like a very low frequency, and it gets harder and harder to get your frequency up, to raise your frequency, to elevate your resonance. So if we can get back to grief, we can understand fear, we can get back to anger. And this is why I find anger is actually not a bad emotion, because anger is at least oscillating. It's 150 hertz. So we're actually getting to those higher frequencies. If we can get beyond the pride and get into courage. Now, courage is a really powerful point to be. And our earlier in Rise of the Phoenix webinar, we had the spiraling image. Okay, and courage and that middle point is like that boredom, that neutrality, where we get to that point where we're like, we need courage here, because say if I did get my pride hurt, through courage, through having courage to stand up for myself, or have courage to look at myself, to look at why my pride was hurt. If I have courage to face my ego, then I don't go down, I go up. I'm like, oh, okay, it's just my ego. I'm more in a more neutral. And then I'm willing to see my own behavior. And I'm willing to accept that, yeah, okay, that's actually relevant. It's actually true what they say. Or if it's not true what they say, if I don't agree with it, I'm willing to accept that. Okay, cool. They're allowed to have their opinion. That's all good. You can reason that. From here, we can start to move more into love and have compassion for ourselves and others. And we move more and more and more. One of the highest frequencies is authenticity. We come back to ourselves. Okay, so you can see how we're either going to go up or we're going to go down. And courage is that really powerful point. And this is where I say all the time to my clients, hold the line. So that image there, that's through the wormhole. So if you look at that image at the top, the bottom image, imagine that's your current reality. And the top of that image is where we want to go. That's the reality that you say you want. That is you knowing. That is the field of infinite potential. That is the potential that you're tuning into infinite possibilities. So that is the potential, the possibilities you're tuning into. And as we hold the resonance of where we want to go, we start to raise our frequency and we start to radiate towards that reality. Now, the wormhole is the part where our ego self will try to pull us back. The ego self will try to pull us back down. Okay, so the wormhole is where we have to hold the line. The wormhole is where we need courage. If we remember the spiraling up or spiraling down, it's a similar image. You can get to that point where we're making changes, and this is where, like Dr. Joe's work, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, all of that comes in. There's this shift. We're motivated, we're inspired. So say we're at the bottom there, we're motivated and inspired. We start to pull into that funnel of change. And then we get to a point where the change becomes hard. We have to die to our former self, like in Rise of the Phoenix. We have to be willing to die to ourselves. We have to be willing to hold the line and keep holding a vision of where it is we want to go and what we want to experience. And that is when courage comes in, because it's very easy. This is where most people will go back to the familiar, and that feels so much better. Oh, what a relief. It feels so much more comfortable. There is this discomfort. We're getting squeezed. There is a discomfort, and that's when we want to engage courage and hold the line. Just hold the line. And when we do, and we hold the line and we hold the vision, you will come out the other end and you will become and experience this reality of the version of you that you choose. And the interesting thing is, look at the bottom. That is that same top. So now we're there and we might shift again. So you may have gone through many wormholes and shifted timelines many times in your journey so far. Every time you've become somebody else, every time you've overcome yourself, when you've overcome addictions, when you've overcome relationship patterns, when you've overcome health and well-being, financial, whatever it is you've overcome, you have had to go through a wormhole of change. You have had to engage courage and willingness and holding the line. Any area in your life where you did not engage courage and where you were able to go back, or where you did go back to a comfort zone, is where we've repeated patterns. And it gives you a chance. It'll keep going around. It'll give you a chance. It'll always come back around. It's just like, do you want to transcend it this time? This time, do you want to once and for all break that pattern so that you can shift to that new timeline? Once again, this is a good opportunity to pause and do some journaling. What are some of the patterns that you want to change? What is the reality that you are holding a vision of? What is the repetitive challenge you have that draws you back? What do you need courage for? When do you need courage? When is it that you start to pull back or draw back? So can you hold the line and use courage to really ascend? Definitely one worth meditating and journaling on. Guys, thank you. We're here. Now, it's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And you know this whole extended Marianne Williamson quote. It is not our darkness, it is our light. Okay. And so when we talk about the holding the line and transcending and having courage to actually let the light shine, courage to hold the line, and courage to shine bright in a dark world. We've been talking about this a lot. The Ascend is all about this reality shift that we're in, this reality to a more 5D experience. Now you have a better understanding about what 5D is, understanding the third and fourth dimension, and that we transcend beyond that, that we don't have to keep doing this duality thing. We don't have to keep doing this competitive thing. We don't have to keep doing this timeline thing. There can be this moment, just this presence. When we are in presence, we can be truly present with the people, the experiences, and ourselves, and the experience we're having. And we can truly, truly, truly shine. We can allow the consciousness to fully express itself in the unique way that is you, that is me. This is where we want to go. We want to shine. We want to be radiating light. So we give permission for others, but also we shine light within ourselves on areas where we need to be able to purge, ascend ourselves, raise our frequency, move to the next level, to understand how we can support humanity to move away from this darkness, these lower vibrational experiences. So I really, really hold that vision. All right. Okay, fine a little bit. If you're taking all of this in and it's really speaking to your soul, and you're really understanding that this is so up my alley, that I am so ready for this. I've been on this path my whole life. I want to find out my coding. I want to really be part of the shift. I want to be part of this reality. I want to support others. I want to share my light. I want to experience my light. I want to clear some of these blockages. I want to be able to be aware of what my deep subconscious is, what my soul destiny is, and how to then transcend into infinite potential. I have 2 programs. One is Soul Mastery. So Soul Mastery is a one-on-one program where we go into minimum of 5 coaching sessions. And here we work with your 5 souls master keys. I share with you, and I help you to discover what your master keys are. So we spoke before about all the different ways that we can break the code and understand. So like I said, you need to be aligned with your soul coding so that you understand what character you're playing. What are the gifts, the limitations, the possibilities that your character has? And from that, you can play through that character. It just gives you that clarity. You can exhale, you can stop searching, and you can start to live life from the inside out. You can start to truly live your life as you, not looking around going, maybe I should take that on, maybe I should take that on, maybe I should walk that path. Everybody plays a different character, and everybody has different potential, and everybody has different abilities and different tools. And through the 5 master keys, we get to understand the basic toolkit you're working with. It's a very powerful system to help you understand a little bit more and start to clear those blockages. It works really fast. And then Soul Fit Mastery, I'm super, super excited and super proud of this. This is a 4-month mentoring program. It's a coach the coach program. So whether you are a yoga teacher who wants to get into coaching, whether you're a life coach and you want to have a better understanding of some of what we've talked about in these webinars, or you want to understand a bit more about physical training, biohacking, if you want to understand a little bit more about mindset, you might be a meditation teacher and you want to add a little bit more understanding of the physical side of things. You might want to understand more coaching skills. So how do you actually share your life experience with people, and how do you coach and support people on this journey that we've been on with these webinars? If this is the journey you've been on and it all speaks to you, how do you share this with people in a way so that they can learn to transcend and understand how to optimize physically, mentally, energetically, and spiritually, which are the 4 pillars we work with in the Soul Fit Mastery program. So Soul Fit Mastery Coach the Coach, there's a new program starting soon. I'm just doing some interviews at the moment, and just explaining a little bit more about it and understanding the basics, the foundation that you're on. So it's not just for people who are coaching, it's for people who know they're being called to be a coach. And that may even just be in your day-to-day life, that people tend to turn to you for advice. They know that you have that insight. They know that you have this gift. One thing that's super powerful is people do their soul mastery. So they do the master keys, and often the master keys will give you an insight that you are destined to be a coach, or that you're destined to be of service, that part of your destiny is to share, to be an empath, to be a light leader. And that is what's happening a lot of the time. And I'm sure that even if you're even interested in any of that we've shared in this webinar series, it is what you are. You are here to help create the shift to the 5D, to create and to help the ascension. And the Coach to Coach program is an introductory level to do that, because obviously 4 months, so much information, but it'll give you a framework of getting that information out to people. At the end of the 4 month, there's also an option to do another month, which is yoga training. So you have the foundations of yoga, sharing that with clients, understanding it better for yourself, and potentially leading to a yoga teacher training. And we also have an ongoing individual mentoring program if you wanted to go further with that. So in the 4-month program, there is an online platform you get to work with. There are guest facilitators teaching coaching. There is physical understanding. So we're looking at things like anatomy and how to optimize the physical body. Mindset coaching, so working with Dr. Joe's work, really understanding the neuroscience, energetic, so everything we talked about today, going deeper into that, and spiritual, understanding how to bring spirituality into everyday life, so supporting clients in that. So I will be sending out a follow-ups for anybody who is interested in either of those programs or both. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your attention. I know it's an information overload. I am really aware. I love information, and I love it when it moves fast. So I'm actually one of those people that just bring it on, just like, yep, I've got it. Next. Just keep it coming, keep it coming. You may not be like that, so it may have all gone a bit too fast. So I hope that you will enjoy the recording, and you can pause as much as you like, review as much as you like, write notes, share it with others. It's the best way to get into that information. So by sharing, by teaching, you really, really, really learn. So teaching is one of the best ways to learn. So make sure you start sharing this information. Thank you once again. I hope you got a lot out of it. And this is my gift to society as well, to the ascension as well. So let us prepare and let us really keep holding the vision for the reality that we do want. So we turn away from what it is we don't want. So my offering, my suggestion, my invitation to you is on the internet, on social media, on anything that you're reading, anything that comes across your path, feel into what is the resonance of this information that I'm looking at. Remember, break down words now and then. Information. Information. I am bringing something into formation. So any information I take in, I become a resonance with, and I bring it into formation, into reality. What is it that you are letting in? What is the resonance that it has on, the effect that it has on you? And then what is that doing in your reality and our reality as a whole? So if we want this reality of peace, of unity, of harmony, and honestly, I can't even begin to tell you how amazing it can be. Universal, like phenomenal. Like we can't believe it. We can't imagine it because we've not lived it for so long. However, that bleed through is happening. That bleed through of reality, of unity, of infinite, of ongoing connection. So I hope that you're on board with me. I am so excited on what is possible for us. So welcome to the Ascent.